Well, International Relations and Cooperation Minister Naledi Pandor has launched the Maxeke African Women's Economic Justice and Rights Initiative. The initiative is aimed at ensuring the economic and financial inclusion of women. But for more on this initiative, Minister Pandor speaks to us now from Pretoria. Minister, a very warm good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us this morning right here on eNCA. We are having this conversation about women inclusion, and I suppose this initiative's aim is to bridge that gap between the exclusion of women, particularly economically. Why do you think now, Minister, urgent time for government particularly to act as well as to bring more interventions into ensuring that women are included in this country economically?
Good morning, and good morning to the viewers of eNCA. It's always been the intention of government to pursue the inclusion of women in our society. From inception of our democracy, in crafting the equality clause in our constitution, the recognition of the need to respect human dignity, the privacy clauses, so many aspects of the framework that shapes a democratic South Africa are related to the need to reinforce and enhance gender equality in our country. The particular focus on economic inclusion, which we announced yesterday, stems from the program of UN Women, which is a global program and effort to achieve generation equality by 2050. So a number of working groups have been established throughout the global community, and these working groups consist of different countries as collaborators working on particular thematic areas. South Africa is in the working group on economic rights and justice.
Minister, the reason why women's economic inclusion is particularly important is because I'm sure you would agree with me that in the past year and plus months during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen women, due to not being included economically, having to suffer through GBV. They have to feel, enforced to stay with partners that are providing for them financially, providing for their children financially, and thus falling victim to gender-based violence and femicide, quite frankly. What is your sentiments, especially when we look at recent incidents such as that of, Forte University, Nostelo Mdebeni, who unfortunately, allegedly at the hands of her boyfriend, also lost her life. What are your sentiments on what's currently happening with women with the so-called second pandemic known as GBV?
Well, I agree with you that we have a very serious pandemic. I think many commentators, the media, government, civil society have recognized that South Africa has an extremely serious problem. I wouldn't ascribe it solely to the pandemic and the restrictions that were put in place. I think South Africa is a particularly violent society, and men have extremely negative stereotypes of women and believe women are their property and that they can treat us in any way that they choose. This is a social attitude that we need to combat in law, but we also need to combat it as part of transforming the social character of South Africa. And I think we cannot ascribe particular situations such as economic exclusion as leading to such. Of course, there's an economic element, but the primary fault is our men and how they behave toward.
Also, when we talk about GBV, if I may move further afield, we've read reports about, women in Afghanistan who have been under the Taliban rule, faced, assault, faced victimization. I'm keen to hear your view as well, Minister, as the Minister of DIRCO. What your sentiments are when you hear about what's been happening. I think even in the media industry, international, colleagues and counterparts, women at that, reporting that they they fail to do their work without being harassed or even assaulted or intimidated by, the military there. What are your sentiments as Minister of DIRCO?
Given the experience that women in Afghanistan had previously under Taliban rule, we have articulated very clearly in our statement that whatever the outcome of this current epoch in the very troubled country of Afghanistan is, there must be respect for freedoms, respect for persons, and in particular, respect for the rights of women and girls. We've made a public statement in this regard. I've also spoken to colleagues whose countries are in the UN Security Council to ask them to give particular attention to this as they debate the matter of the turn of events in Afghanistan in the Security Council. I also know that colleagues in UN Women are paying attention. They're in contact with women in civil society. I think we should be worried about some of the statements that are being made. I don't yet hear a genuine commitment to the rights of women and their recognition as equal citizens in Afghanistan. Some of the statements are rather worrying, but the international community has an important role that it must play in this regard, and especially the countries that have a very good gender record in terms of women's equality, such as Norway, who are on the Security Council, need, I think, to assist us. I was speaking to the foreign minister yesterday expressing my concern and the concerns of women organized in civil society who have been talking to us.
Well, Minister, we appreciate your time this morning. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had with you. And thank you for speaking to us. Minister Dr. Naledi Pandor, DIRCO Minister, speaking about the initiative they've launched as a department under Charlotte Maxeke's initiative to see more women inclusion, but also sharing her sentiments there regarding GBV, both in South Africa and as we've witnessed and read reports in Afghanistan.